August 18th, 2024, our internet receiver got fried by a lightning storm. My partner got in a help chat for the company that manufactures it, and the chatter on the other end asked for some confirmation tests like, hey, plug this into something else and confirm something for me. So, of course, my partner complies and types in the chat, yeah, give me 1 minute. And within the minute, the chatbot typed, I'm detecting a lack of response, and shut the chat before he could get back. Like, what the fuck? On the other hand, the guy he talked to on the phone once he got a hold of a human was very helpful. Why am I telling you this? Because although we are so unbelievably cooked right now with companies forcefully integrating AI into people's workflows in ways that make things less effective for their employees and a worse experience for their customers, this diminishing in quality of customer service has been going on for far longer. And although it is getting egregious right now, I want to make a time capsule video documenting that customer service is not just getting worse because of corporate greed. It's also because of work ethic. I have no problem with people quiet quitting at jobs that underpay and undervalue them in a society we are literally incapable of existing in without money. Get that bag. However, intentionally being bad at a job to the point of going below the bare minimum is not it. Not the same thing. I'm sure you've seen videos of delivery people throwing packages at houses. That's basically where I'm going with this. Where it's not just negligence, it's low-key malicious. When people's work ethic, their drive to do their job well, is so lacking that they don't actually do their job anymore. I used to think it was an excellent idea for package delivery people to have a means of communicating in a more personalized way with the customer, and I'm not so sure anymore. One time we got a package delivery notification that it had arrived, and the driver wrote a note that they left it in a safe place. It wasn't at our front door, it wasn't at the garage, it wasn't in the mailbox. We ended up filing for a refund because we couldn't find it, despite the delivery driver's intentional message, left in a safe place. Want to know where it was? It was propped on the top of a ladder, leaned against a storage container, nowhere near any of the buildings on the property, and completely exposed to the elements. And it rains a lot here. The thing I'm more worried about going forward, though, is related to my first example of needing online support. Or phone support. Any support, really. The harder things become to get in contact with a human being is one thing. The people we get connected with actually being able to help is entirely something else. I made a video a while ago about a pretty glaring instance of this, getting bounced around in a chat room between a chatbot and what must have been a human because their responses were actually even harder to understand, ending on them trying to gaslight us because they didn't have a basic comprehension of what the product we were asking for information on even was. And it was a fun time, but I've got an even better example now. My partner ordered a piece of equipment from the US that, no, he could not have gotten the quality he wanted in Canada, and this was before all of the tariffs bullshit, okay? Don't even ask. Anyway, it's a several $1,000 package, so it's pretty important. There was a clause on the information site about importing such things that said, if you don't intend to pay taxes as a business, you have to submit the proper documentation about the itemized manufacturing of the product. Essentially, everything about where the people that he bought it from got their parts. Z was importing as an individual though, so he filed out the form for that, and sent it in when he got an email from the shipping company that it was being held at the border awaiting further documentation. And he got paired up with a FedEx processing worker that should not have had their job. They emailed Z back with several blank forms, including the one that he'd already submitted, and told him to fill them out like she hadn't received his original email at all. This included forms that Z could not fill out because he was not the manufacturer and didn't have that information and shouldn't have needed to as an individual. So he re-emailed the one that he'd already sent in that was applicable. She asked him to fill out the one that he couldn't fill out again. He explained that he didn't have that information and wasn't a corporation himself. This went back and forth for a while, and Z, doing his best to comply even though he didn't know what the holdup was, even went so far and had the time in this gigantic delay to get extra manufacturing information from the business he ordered from to fill out things as if he were a business, even though he's not, just to see if it would please her. At one point, she emailed him, "Document information not correct." Not only was it a one-sentence response to a back and forth that had gone on for over a week already, with no capitalization and no punctuation, but it was a waste of fucking time. It wasn't helpful. What good is telling someone their document information isn't correct if you don't tell them what part it is that they need to change? There's a lot of spots to mess up. He's the one who submitted it earnestly in the first place. Obviously, he doesn't have any idea what she considers not to be correct. How does he fix it? Now, the thing is, this worker has a desk position. Their correspondence was tagged with their name, work email, and work phone extension. Not only was it an expensive shipment, which is stressful, but Z was at a total standstill with his work waiting on this package, so his top priority was getting in contact with this person. And the worst part was that when he called, she wouldn't pick up. At one point, he was sitting around waiting for a reply during office hours, and he called their office extension within a minute of receiving another useless email from her, giving a blanket statement about his non-conforming documentation, and found that it was off the hook. The person quite literally was coming into the office in the morning and taking their phone off of the hook so people couldn't call them. Z did everything in his power to reach out and get this processed another way, but his processing case was attached to this particular individual who was terrible at their job. Upon their last email to him, just reattaching blank documents and pasting information from the site, Z sent her all of them filled out and more, and pleaded that he needed to be told what the actual problem was and that he intended to pay taxes. He didn't care, just send him the package. It's been weeks, please. Simultaneously, Z had been working to get in contact through other sects of the company to see if anyone else could transfer or process him or even just help him, and ended up talking to the secretary at the branch where the shitty worker was. It was very awkward having to explain everything to them, and quite honestly, it wasn't that secretary's fucking problem. She technically couldn't help him either in terms of processing the problem, but she was literally the only person he managed to speak to close enough to the issue that could do anything for him. Thank God that she was a nice person and sympathetic, and it seemed like she was a bit appalled that her coworker was being so unresponsive, messaging in circles like they hadn't read anything that he'd sent and straight up refusing to answer their phone, which is part of their job. And the only reason that Z got his package was because that blessed secretary went out of her way to hold her coworker accountable by checking in on her, asking, "What the heck is the problem? Why is this guy phoning me?" As soon as there was a consequence, whatever the issue was got resolved instantly. Because the only actual problem was that a real human worker couldn't be arsed to engage with the bare minimum customer service correspondence that was their entire job. I hope I made it clear that this was not the fault of Z, even if he filled out one spot on the information form wrong in one of the many documents and revisions that he submitted, which in the end, he didn't. They wanted him to fill out a form for a different case situation, and it was their lack of understanding of their own job. Yeah, not every government-esque worker should be expected to hold the hand of every person who submits an incorrect form. But at a certain point, they were losing the business they were working for more time and money by being ineffective and refusing to give a proper one-sentence reply of what was actually needed, holding up process of a big expensive package at the border for weeks due to their own sheer incompetence. So I've got some pretty damning personal examples of why humans aren't always better than AI. That's not to say I support the AI apocalypse, though. I don't, because even outside of it being implemented into a system of work, I strongly feel as though it's affecting humans' critical thinking skills and ability to problem solve and communicate effectively. The more people offload onto technology in their lives, the worse they become at functioning. Period. Not only do we need to be rejecting the needless inclusion of AI in the workspace, we need to stop praising people for using it, because it's not cool to say that you didn't have to do something yourself when the underlying, unsaid fact is that you couldn't have done it yourself if you wanted to. There's too much cope going on right now. We're making ourselves useless, and we need to be functional to have this thing we call society. And listen, I don't need society. You do. I'll go live in the forest and be perfectly fine, but I swear to God, if you come wandering in there, remorseful of what you've let the world become, I'm not sorry for the wrong turn traps that you're about to fall into. Alright? Everybody, start taking accountability before I go feral. Okay, thanks. Bye.